Welcome to the first Narrabri Shire Ordinary Council meeting for 2024. I'd like to call upon the Minister to deliver an opening prayer, if he wouldn't mind.
Okay, thank you. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, every good gift comes from you. We thank you for the privilege that we have of living in such a rich and beautiful part of creation. We thank you, Lord, for the peace that we enjoy in this part of the world. And Lord, I pray that today, as this council meets, that they'll know your peace, your wisdom, and your direction as they make the decisions that need to be made. Amen.
Thank you very much. And while we remain standing, if I could just acknowledge country. Our council acknowledges that we meet today on the traditional lands of the Kamilaroi, Gamilaroi and Gomeroi people and recognise their continuing connection to this land and pay my respects to elders past, present, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal people present here today. Recognition of servicemen and women. Council acknowledges the sacrifice made by Australian servicemen and women, in particular those who gave their lives in the defence of the freedom we enjoy today. Thank you, councillors. You may be seated. Just a notice that I just need to advise that council will be recording this meeting today to be webcast and available on the internet. As such, all those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Can I ask that all councillors during the duration of the meeting limit discussions only to the business on the agenda and what is permissible under the adopted Code of Meeting Practice. We have not had any applications for attendance via audio-visual link, so I'll move on to the next agenda item, which is apologies and granting of leave of absence. I do have an application for leave of absence from Councillor Campbell. Do I have a mover on that? Thank you. Councillor Redding, Councillor Clements, thank you. All those in favour of the granting of leave of absence? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. Do I have any items that councillors wish to make disclosures on?
Yeah, Councillor Richardson, item 14.8, DA applications. My employer has a DA 2024-0067, and there's also a DA in close proximity to my residence as well. And I'll step outside of the chamber. Okay. Non-significant, non-pecuniary.
Thank you, councillor. Any other councillors at all? No? We'll just move on, thank you. Items to be considered in the confidential public excluded meeting. We do have some items there and we'll go through. So those matters that will be considered in the closed public excluded meeting include item 18.1, which is the Narrabri Shire Youth Council. So we've got application received for that one. 18.2, which is the Seniors Festival, and that's the decision and the ratification of Senior of the Year nomination. We have 18.3, which is the business paper and unconfirmed minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. So we'll go through those reasons when we get to that part of the meeting. Councillor.
We've got another one there on that, which is in the
right. 18.4, which is in the supplementary. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Dickinson. Much appreciate that. So it's 18.4. 2324/42 Yarry Lake Road to Pilliga Road freight route updates, stage 1. So that'll be an item that we'll consider in confidential as well. We don't have any presentations or any applications for presentations today. So we'll move on to item 9, which is confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover on? I assume that everyone's had a chance to peruse those minutes. Do I have a mover of those minutes? Councillor Dickinson, thank you. Do I have a seconder of those minutes? Councillor Redding. Thank you very much. All those, do you wish to speak to the minutes at all? No. Any other comments, etc.? Yes, Councillor
I just
Browning.
won't vote for it because I wasn't here, so.
That's okay.
Yep.
If you don't vote against it, it'll be taken as a vote against, of course. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. So everyone except for Councillor Browning, of course. Attendance via audio visual link. Item number 10, there are nil reports in that. Agenda item 11, matters of great urgency. We do not have any reports or requirements under matters of great urgency. Item number 12, which is questions with notice. We've got no items there or questions with notice under there. We now come to the mayoral minutes. I'll just jump to that item. It's just... My docs on tap has frozen a bit, and I'll just jump to that. It's actually not too bad normally, so thank you everyone. It's look, it's been the mayoral minute basically listed a number of items since the middle of December. I guess December was very much taken up with a lot of the LEMC stuff in relation to the Duck Creek fire. I'd have to say it was a real privilege watching all the emergency services and the activities around the emergency services during that particular time. It was like watching a well-tuned orchestra playing together, and the comments and the praise that I had for the emergency services in Narrabri was just something to behold. We had, during that time, I met one of the deputy commissioners, I met one of the assistant commissioners of police, I had various other players that came in and out, and the local member, of course, as well, and everyone praised and commented on how competent and clever the emergency services were in Narrabri. And there was the assistant commissioner at one particular stage said to me, when he knew that there was going to be a section 44 in Narrabri, and he read the list of who was actually running that particular job, he had every confidence that things would be done in the right way, and it would be handled very, very competently. So it was actually a real feather in the cap. So during that time, it was Eloise and a number of the other staff members and the directors, etc., just performed brilliantly. Yes, and so January, I was here for most of January, but it was just things just ticking along. The council, performing what the council does and just continuing the services as it went through. There's attended a number of meetings. We had the Australia Day celebrations, of course, which a number of councillors were involved in. So I thank you for your involvement. I think the council, certainly the council, performed great duty that day, and it was, and certainly the council staff members organised those events exceedingly well. We've just had a number of other meetings, etc., but it's been obviously a busy time, and I just thank you for everyone's support. I've had a number of councillors continue to phone me up during that time, and I've phoned up other councillors, and just really thank you for all your support, and I think we're making some good progress, so thank you. Do we have any comments or questions? Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple of things. On 5th of January, you just noted there that you had met with the Narrabri Industrial Network regarding government shortfalls. You're able to articulate a little bit more on what those shortfalls were and what the outcomes of that meeting were?
Yes.
That's my first question.
Yep, no worries. So I was asked to just meet up with the president of the industrial network, and my understanding was that under the previous government there was a promise of a certain amount of money to go to the Narrabri Industrial Network to maintain the administration. My understanding is that they received half of that. half of that amount, and they were just trying to seek my support and the mayor's support and council's support for the other half to be paid. And then, I said, look, I'm more than happy to write a letter or something, but then subsequently I found out that they didn't need that anyway. That was to pay for, they've got an admin staff member internally, and she no longer is working, she's no longer working on salary, so they've had to, she's working as a volunteer now, is my understanding. So they were just seeking my support for, for the work that they do.
A supplementary to that,
No worries.
may I then, so that the funding shortfall wasn't related to funds that the Shire had provided,
The Shire
or the
didn't
government had provided through to.
The Shire
To
didn't
the network.
provide any
Thank you.
funding
Thank
for.
you. That's
Just clarify this. I know it's been a well-worn narrative, but the Shire didn't provide the Narrabri Industrial Network. From what I haven't seen any evidence that the Shire provided the Narrabri Industrial Network with any direct financial funding, is my understanding.
Thank you, we've also, yes, which,
Well, we didn't
We
provide any
did.
funding.
sorry, so anyway, look, I'm really just getting your clarification for that.
Yeah.
point.
So it was.
That's all I'm
I think it was a
asking for.
shortfall of $50,000, and
Right.
it's that was the amount that the new government, made a decision that they weren't going to pay that up. So
And could I also ask, were there any media releases with your signature on them? No, they don't seem to be listed here in that description, and I thought that was some undertaking you'd made
about
last year that you would identify in your mayoral report when media releases were sent out under your auspice.
no, I don't think I made that undertaking. But look, in our councillor brief, so our councillor weekly newsletter that you get, every single media release is listed there in great detail, and every councillor receives an email copy of every release. So it's kind of a,
If I may,
it's a moot point.
Mayor, that's not a matter of the public record.
What's that?
That wouldn't be a matter of the public record, what is provided to council through
Yeah.
newsletters and stuff like that.
It's on the website.
Whereas this
It's on the
is-
council website. All media releases are on the website, so it is a matter of public record. So yeah.
I think it's pertinent to the role of the mayor, that was all.
I'm not sure. I don't know whether everyone wants to read every single. I'm not sure. I'll have a think about it, Rowan. I'll have a think
Mayor,
about it. Sorry,
I wasn't
councillor.
asking for the actual description of the entire media
Just
release,
that
just a detail. I think it would be relevant for this section that mayors would identify what media releases have been put out under their auspices as part of the public record in relation to the monthly report from the mayor. It's my suggestion, maybe you would like to
Yeah.
reflect on it and get back, but it's not the first. This is coming from a number of people that I've spoken with. They said,
Really?
well, we don't know
Okay.
what you guys are up to. I said,
Yeah, well, it's all there. The media releases are all online and etc. So anyway, I'll have a think about it. I'm not sure. The mayoral minute will end up being 14 pages long instead of 8 pages or whatever it is. But anyway, I'll look into it. Councillor Clements.
The Ballada Hall. So you were accompanied by the Director of Planning and Sustainability, met regarding the ownership of the hall?
Yes. Now we met with someone from Crown Lands, which
Sean
is
Barker, who's
yeah.
acting for someone.
Yeah, he's got quite a regional, and I think it's a really good potential outcome. I mean, nothing's locked in stone at this stage, but what we are looking at, which is a potentially great outcome, would be for the state to take on the ownership of that building and Crown Lands in particular. And then the Ballada Hall, instead of the Ballada Hall having to pay $10,000 worth of, trying to find that funds to come up with $10,000 worth of insurance for the building, would be covered by Crown Lands automatically. And when we heard of that, so the Barn Bar Hall, that's exactly what happened with Barn Bar Hall. Yeah. That's now Crown Lands. Crown Lands covers them with insurance. Yeah. And as soon as I had a meeting with the Barn Bar Hall committee, and as soon as they mentioned that that's what happened, I straight away thought that's got to be something that we can come up with a solution.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the ownership status, Have you shown the
It's
director
common.
of
We show,
planning?
yeah, I've
There's
showed them all
clearly
those.
old title ownership in the name of that hall,
Yeah.
which I think you have.
The minister has, one of the federal government ministers, I think it's the Minister for Finance, she confirmed that the Commonwealth definitely owns
Well,
the
it's
building.
interesting because there is
Yeah.
old title ownership by the
Yeah.
whole committee clearly on the New South Wales title register.
Yeah.
So have the Commonwealth been shown that old title
The
ownership?
Commonwealth was sent a raft of documents by the old committee, so.
Yeah, but have
yeah.
they been sent the title deeds in their name in New South Wales?
The title deeds can't be found.
No, they have been found. You've been
Yeah.
sent them previously.
Oh, there's listings,
No,
listings,
no.
but
Very clearly, the title deeds show them as the owner. You have been sent that.
yeah. I got a letter from the federal government saying that they were the owner
It would
of the
be
building.
useful to
so
show the federal government the New South Wales title system.
They were sent a raft of documents,
No.
about an inch thick.
I think
so.
that it would be useful if you, and I'll send them to you again. I think Councillor Browning said.
I have them all, John. I have them. Sorry, Councillor Clements.
Okay.
But look,
Well, how about I write to the federal minister and
The-
show them the title deeds that say that
But-
it is owned by the Hall Committee?
anyway, just so we can move on. The good news is that Crown Lands are looking at acquiring the building. They're looking at taking that on. They've already been in dialogue with the federal government about it, and if that's the case, they can move forward.
Federal government doesn't
potentially
own, Chair. It'll be a little problem at that point when somebody works out that the title deeds in New South Wales are very clear. The Bladder Hall
Yeah.
owns that site.
when a federal government minister says that she owns that
Federal
they
government
own it.
minister has no interest or knowledge of the New South Wales title system.
Okay.
You have the title deeds.
Yeah.
I'll send them to you again. It would be useful for the federal minister to see the title.
I did. So when we had the meeting, we had exactly this discussion that there's been confusion over the ownership. We gave him a raft of documents, and so Crown Lands are working through all that. So I think it's happy news. So it's great. So yep. Any other comments or questions or concerns? Yep. Councillor Brown.
I see that you've had talks with Roy Butler again,
Yes.
and I'm just wondering, has Roy ever been sent a letter or an invitation
many
to come
times.
to a
Yes.
meeting or
Yep.
a briefing?
Yes, he has many times. In fact, I think he's taking us up on one of those very soon. No, he's been sent. In fact, the amount of correspondence coming out of my office of late to our local member's office is extraordinary. So yes, he has been invited many, many times, and he's got a standing invitation. We'd love to have him here. So it'd be great. So thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, just on the 22nd of January, you met with PCYC.
Yes.
Yes. Was
Correct.
that a positive meeting? Obviously, they've invited you to have a look at the Walgett PCYC.
It wasn't, yes, good question. It wasn't really about so much to further our prospects. It was more an exploratory to have a look at, different styles of PCYC for us, and particularly operational staff to get their head around the types of PCYCs that are out there. So that's what we did. We had a look. We had an understanding of how they got to that particular point, who was involved. I mean, we had some extraordinary things, such as something like 70% of the residents of Walgett are actually members of that PCYC, 70%. And the amount of funding, the amount of rallying, the amount of political capital they had to expend to get to that particular point it's an extraordinary project, it really was.
So the information gained from that meeting should inevitably assist us
Yes.
in
yes.
our advocacy for a PCYC.
Potentially, and it's all about trying to have a little bit of an understanding of, whether or not that need state exists in this shire and exactly what we need. So, yeah, good question. Thank you.
Yeah. And just one more. On the 11th of January, you met with Mark Johnson, Moree
Yes.
Plains. Yeah. Can you just expand a bit on that? Like, you're talking about to see where we can both
Initiatives
work
and
together
progress.
in the future and things like that.
I think I've tried to build a good relationship with both the Mayor of Gunnedah and the Mayor of Moree, as well as mayors on, over in Guida and Warrumbundas and Walgett, etc. But Mayor Johnson was in town, and he said, "Would you like to catch up?" And we caught up, and we just spoke frankly about some of the issues that he had in his town, and it was almost immediately after some of the quite hot stuff that had happened in Moree, particularly around crime and some of the statements that have been made, and some of the great difficulties they're facing. I don't want to quote him necessarily, but you know, they've got some significant challenges in that town, vis-a-vis crime particularly. And it's the old adage of it takes the entire community to try and solve issues of crime like that, and he's really facing, from all parts of the community, great amount of division. Nothing like the kind of divisions that we face in this shire, which we're fortunate about. So
both
it's-
shires are very different.
it's tricky, but he was also welcoming the fact that our GMs are working closely together. We're looking at initiatives together and looking at operational things that can be, and ways of cooperating together, which I think was great. So yeah,
No, that's
that's
good.
good. Good man. Yeah. Thank you very much. There being no further questions. Oh, sorry, Councillor Lamont. How are you? Yes, no worries.
Straight ahead.
Yep.
Thank you. It's interesting, Mr Mayor, I just want to ask a question on page 32,
Yes.
that the sequay was the Mayor of Moree, because as you would realise, or may not know, he was an auditor to local government
Yes.
before they contracted them out. And the situation with Narrabri Shire would have been of great interest to that individual. I think he's pretty much aware of the circumstances, and I know people have spoken to him about his interpretation of how grants were treated for their CBD upgrade and maintenance street. My question is in relation to the 30th of January. You're the General Manager and the Director of Finance and Financial Commercial Services. You met with Namoi Aero Club President, and then you attended an interview with 7 News in relation to the Minister for Local Government's media release. New South Wales Government announces reviewing the funding model of councils to address financial sustainability concerns. I wonder what you said. Did you use us as an example of what can happen if these things aren't done properly, like has happened prior to the 21-22 financial year with the audit and years before?
So do you have a question?
My question is council going to do anything about making a submission for that?
I will direct that. You've got your microphone still on, Councillor Lamont. Thank you. Great. I might just direct that to the General Manager, just in terms of are we making this?
Through the chair, if elected members have a consensus that a submission needs to be made, then we're happily make one.
Look, I was obviously interviewed by Channel 7, and as anyone who's had any experience with being interviewed by the media, about 7.5 seconds, I think, of me saying something went to air, and we certainly had a good discussion. But yeah, it is what it is. It was the media release, though. Yep. There was the story wasn't. Did you have you seen the? Have you seen the story?
I haven't seen it.
Yep.
I haven't seen it on television.
Yep.
Didn't know what the big deal was in terms of suddenly interviewing you. Answer my question.
Yep. Yep. Anyway. Yep. So we'll make a submission if that's required. Yep. And in terms of meeting with the Namoi Aero Club, that was just we're looking at a Narrabri Airport master plan, which we've got a master planner on board just to look at the use of that land. What is the most effective and efficient use of that land? So it's been a very useful project so far.
Just
Councillor Lemon.
business arising, I'll be quick. But our submission to the review of local government, I think it's accounting really and financial systems, must include assets. So, you know, the Red Fleet asset, well understood, but our road assets, we regularly play with that number because most councils from here west would be insolvent if they actually properly valued depreciation on their road asset. So you know, Councillor Lamont has a particular interest. Well, my particular interest is let's, and as I understand from the Minister, this is really about trying to get a look at how assets are managed and depreciation schedules are managed. So if I could say, let's really put an emphasis on the depreciation schedules. Roads are way bigger than Redfleet. Redfleet's topical, but the road depreciation schedule is way bigger than Redfleet in terms of an issue. So let's sort of really focus in on that.
Thinking. There being no further questions, I'd just like to move that, the mayoral minutes. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Sorry? That was more than a minute, I'd have to say. Sorry about that.
Mr Mayor,
Sorry, Councillor
point of
Lamont.
order, if I can. I think it's fantastic that you're giving us this much information. And the same with your memos, they are brilliant. But we never got that before. And I bet other councillors in previous councils probably never got it either. So I think it's a great thing that you do.
Thank you.
So don't kick the messenger in the knees.
No, of
We
course.
are supporting what you're saying and really filling the gaps here. We're
Appreciate
not picking on you.
Appreciate
if
that.
you fill in that way. And it would be good, this is our meeting
Yep.
with you as the chair. Our meeting of councillors. So it would be great if you'd let us have our little say without talking over us. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you very much, Councillor Lamont. And your words, I think they were back in October, where you said, I love the fact that they're not political. Now, you know, all my statements, your words ring in my ears, which is about all of this stuff is really about just getting the job done for the council. So thank you, Councillor Lamont. Appreciate it. Moving on to the items today, we've got 14.1, which is the delegate report for the Narrabri Gas Project CCC. Does the I'm just trying to get onto this delegate report. Councillor Redding, did you want to make any report on that at all? Okay, have to move it. Do we have a seconder for that item? Councillor Dickinson, thank you very much. Any other comments, concerns or questions? There being no further comments, just put that to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. 14.2, which is the Narrabri Mine CCC, held on the 6th of December 2023. Councillor Dickinson has left the chamber at 1:28. Councillor Redding, you're in attendance, or would you like to say anything about that at all? No? No worries. Happy to move it. Do I have a seconder for those minutes at all? Councillor Browning, thank you very much. Any other comments or concerns? No. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Item 14.3. This is the 2024 Australian Local Government Association ALGA National General Assembly. This item's been presented by the General Manager. I might just hand to the General Manager if he wouldn't mind just giving us some details, please.
Through the Chair, it's just a notification of the Annual General Assembly, which is followed on Friday by the National Council for Local Government. Councillors are at liberty to nominate any number of councillors to send, but obviously there's a budgetary consideration that has been highlighted in the report that councillors' delegate expenses budget is $30,000, of which this year 25,793 has already been expended. So if you do want to send more than one delegate, you are going to have to increase that budget by resolution and nominate where that budget will be increased from. You have an annual budget of $30,000, of which $25,793 has been expended this year. So whilst we've had a number of delegates attending different conferences through the year since July, this one, which is probably one of the latter ones in this financial year, but you do hit a budgetary constraint if you want to send more than one delegate. It is, but it needs to be paid for in this financial year because you've got to pay for the registration and the hotel bookings. Look, it's not unachievable, but it was, I think it's important to highlight these budgetary constraints. So I'm having nods from my financial director that we can accrue monies to the next financial year. That's his battle with the auditors. So feel free to debate who wants to be nominated. We have hotel rooms booked, so we have 3 hotel rooms booked. If you want to send more than 3 delegates, then that may get difficult because hotel rooms in Canberra at that time of year are already incredibly difficult to get. So we did preempt this conversation prior to Christmas by making sure that we did have accommodation booked for up to 3 councillors.
We need to move it first.
Councillor, Councillor Dickinson, Richardson,
I'm happy to move it to go into debate.
sorry,
I'm happy to move this item to go into debate.
thank you very much. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Clements, thank you. Thank you. Did you want to?
Yeah. I don't think we should exceed the budget. I don't think we should put it in next financial year's budget because that's not fixing the problem, it's moving it. We need to show our ratepayers that we are as conservative as we are being with their projects like roads and things like that. We've got ourselves into a really good financial position and I think we need to lead by example, and I do think it should only be one person that goes. We've still got another 4 months of this financial calendar left, and I do think even though you can do accrual accounting, I don't think that is the answer. It's just moving the problem to next year when we're going to probably run into the same situation if we don't increase that budget. And I do believe it should be our mayor that does attend that event.
Councillor Lamont.
I've been taught the old way. If the mayor speaks, we sit down. You're speaking.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lamont. It does actually. Well, actually, it's either.
Yeah. Anyhow, you can set the standard while you're mayor. The bottom line is, I only mentioned the accrual accounting. There's many other options if councillors need to go or want to go. It's a professional development arena. Now, I'm not going. I didn't go last year either, or the year before, whether I was eligible or not. But there are councillors that may want to go. So I think that's the first thing you need to establish. And the second thing is, how do you finance it? It's easy. How many of you have been on professional development courses? Over here we've got a vote. The General Manager didn't mention that there's money over here for professional development, or was that what he was referring to? We've only got 30,000 for professional development, or is it only for delegates, councillors attending conferences is the issue. So I think it's beyond the money. If there's money in the budget in other sources, where I haven't had any professional development since I've been here, other than the amount of money spent on inducting councillors, right? And there would be other councillors here in the room and the same. So you can always, by way of resolution from council, move that money from professional development over into the delegates' expenses in this current year, if that's what you need to do. So it's not a matter of tricking the ratepayers or that out there. It's about councillors' professional development so they can better serve the ratepayers. And if funds are within the budget in areas I've mentioned, well, you should be able to nominate which councillors wish to go.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lamont. Would it be worth us moving into committee of the whole just to kind of get our heads around who wants to and who doesn't want to attend?
Just ask a question before
Councillor Reading.
we do. Were you anticipating on the
I'm open to attending. I think there are some functions that occur immediately after with various federal politicians and state. It might be, I think it would be very useful for me to attend, but it's also, I'm open to your decision, of course.
Look, I'm happy to move in the committee of the whole if it helps. And I do want to speak on this. I'm ready to speak on it now or move
Okay. Are you moving that we move into the committee of the
I
whole?
move that we move in the committee of the whole, please.
Councillor Boehm seconds that. All those in favour, moving committee of the whole. All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you.
If I could.
Councillor Clements.
Look, I take up on Councillor Lamont's comments. We need to, and we're about to find out who, if any, wants to attend. I think it's useful for councillors. I went 2 years ago. I think councillors should attend these things. It gives you a better idea of local government. It gives you a better idea of the network that exists. And frankly, we've got a professional development budget, which I think we raised, increased, and we really don't talk much about that. There are some great local government accounting courses, which, you know, I would be really interested in attending. But also, this is in July. You know, we can play games with words, and we can throw a bit of clickbait out to the ratepayers, who I respect. This is not a wealthy shire. There are wealthy people in this shire, but it's not a wealthy shire. But I'm not going to sit here playing games with words. This is in July. Councillors should attend these things. It opens your horizons up. There's nothing worse than having a small horizon because you never move outside your own little town, your own little network. So people should attend this. I'm not putting my hand up. I went 2 years ago. I'm happy to give the opportunity to others. Anyway, I just open it up. Who's interested in attending?
Thank you. Councillor Clements. Thank you. Turn the microphone off. Councillor Boehm.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been to both the state and the national
Yes.
meetings. I'm not going to be putting my name up for this year, but I would very seriously encourage other councillors to really to put some time out for this. It's particularly eye-opening, great opportunity to meet with many other councillors, have decent conversations in sessions, and also just to listen to the whole gamut of what actually happens in local government across the country. And I think this is really important. I certainly learned a hell of a lot last year in Canberra, more so there than in the state.
Yeah, I agree.
This year, so I would definitely encourage it. And I'm also agreeing that this is about, as Councillor Mott's pointed out, this is about professional development. We are elected by the community to represent them in government, and I believe that we should consider the financial implications are not nearly as important as the professional development is, and there will always be funds available to support these important events.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Could I just comment? So we've just identified that there is $9,000 remaining in a professional development for councillors' fund, so that would fund 2.5 delegates. Combine that with this budget that's still available under this particular item, and that would be the mayor and two councillors. So, yeah.
Who wants to
we
go?
can very easily transfer some money for 3 delegates if there is desire.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Who wants?
It's not just attending, it's the voting as well that, we agree with some and not agree.
It's also the opportunity to corner some of the politicians that you would normally not have access to, and actually. So who? I'm open to going, but Councillor Redding, Councillor Richardson, is that something you're interested in? No. Councillor Clements, you said no, did you, or you were interested? Or?
I'm interested in this going on. We should go. I think it's good for us to attend this.
Councillor Browning, you interested in going?
I would be interested in going, so long as it doesn't interfere with picking. Absolutely, I would be.
Picking. I thought you said pigging there for a second. I didn't think that was.
Councillor Browning will hope that he's not picking in July, but maybe he will be. So what I'll say is he should put his hand up, and if he's still picking, I'll either jump on his picker or I'll fill his spot. Okay.
Righto, let's move this forward, everyone. Councillor Lamont, did you?
I already indicated no, but the reason why no is I'm going to be overseas.
Are you? Yep. No worries. Somewhere nice. Great. Councillor Bowen? No. Yeah. Councillor Clements, okay, we understand. Sorry? 3 rounds, yeah. So we,
Oh, who wants to go? Hands up
So
who
we've
wants
got-
to go, and then we'll work it down from there.
Councillor
That's
Redding,
1, 2, 3, 4. So we just need one to drop out.
the Mayor and
Councillor Dickinson.
do you want to go? Yeah. Okay. Okay, no worries. All right, so can we, is everyone happy with the discussion? Do we need to move out of committee of the whole?
Can we move out of the committee of the whole? I'll move that.
You're moving that. Seconded by Councillor Bowen. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Back into formal meeting procedure. So we have a mover for this motion, and the recommendation here is that we nominate councillor attendees at the ALGA National General Assembly conference. Those being Councillor Redding, Councillor Browning, and Councillor Tiemans. And obviously, as you know, time moves on, that there is flexibility that any of those people can be, if we can put that in the motion, can be substituted out if they're unable to attend. Does that sound fair? Yep.
Just for clarity, the nominations for the 3 councillors, do they include the Council of Local Government as well on the Friday, or do they just relate to the actual General Assembly, which is the Monday to the Thursday? So check out on the Friday morning to leave, because there is the council which occurs on the Friday, which is a mayoral thing more than a... But again, councillors can attend that if so desired. And just for clarity, item 3, the councillor attendee at the gala dinner, that is limited to the mayor, from my information. So it's, if the mayor's going to be attending, then it's only the mayor that can attend that gala dinner. It's if they're low on numbers, they might open it up. But generally speaking, the invites to that gala dinner are for mayors of shires only. I'm sorry, mayors only. And would it be possible to include a 4th resolution that would indicate that funds for this professional development experience, or whatever the words are, will be
Switched from.
paid for by the, attendance at this conference will be paid for by the professional development budget.
Lisa, Councillor Richardson, you're moving it, aren't you?
Yes, I think it should be just a little bit more clearer. The council allocate the additional funds required from the professional development budget. Yeah. Yeah, professional development budget for councillors. And then the remaining out of 9,000 for the professional development budget, there'll be $2,710 left in that allocation for the rest of the financial year. I just think it's we've got the funds allocated within our budget. so we can pass the pub test with our ratepayers. I'm happy for that. I just want to make it clear that that fund is now obsolete for the rest of the financial year.
Excellent. It's your motion, Councillor Richardson. Would you like to? Is there anything else you'd like to say about in favour of this motion? Seconder, do you agree with the change? Excellent. Mover, did you have anything else you'd like to add to the debate or add to support this motion? Any other comments, Councillor?
I'm speaking for the motion, Mr Mayor.
Excellent.
You haven't closed yet. Councillors need to understand the financial situation that money can get moved around if the purpose presents itself that it has to be that way. So that's by resolution of council. It's not like, oh, we can't do it. It's not like a P&C. It's if circumstances present whereby we need to attend or something happens that we find a source of funds from elsewhere. That's the way local government works. It's not like the P&C. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lamont, thank you very much. Any other comments, concerns, or do we just put it straight to the vote? No other comments. All those in favour of this motion, all those against, that's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Let's move on to item 14.4, which is monthly financial report for January 2024. And for this, through the General Manager to the Director of Financial and Commercial Services, if you would like to just give us a top line on this, please.
Through the General Manager to Mayor, thank you very much. Councillors will note the, as I say, the monthly financial reports for January 2024. Obviously a work in progress, as you may recall. The monthly statements were never prepared before my time at council, and we made an agreement with council, for a better word, to progress monthly reporting for council. You'll note that the net operating result, as at the end of January, in the year-to-date column, the middle column on the income statement, is approximately $20.86 million in surplus. Now, that doesn't include any items in relation to depreciation and amortisation, which has yet to be put through the books because we're still awaiting the finalisation of the 2023 financial year audit. Apologies, the printer has not printed double-sided. The financial statement, the statement of financial position, formerly known as a balance sheet, is also there for council's alliteration, showing a positive balance sheet for the period as well, all up a very positive result for the period ended 31 January.
Thank you very much. Now, do I have a mover on this in this motion? Councillor Clements, seconded by Councillor, I think it was Councillor Redding, was second. Thank you very much. Councillor Clements, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
Very briefly, I appreciate the undertaking of staff to bring these reports to us. A great deal of effort goes into them, and I open it up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments for or against this motion? Oh, you've still got your microphone on. There being no questions for or against this motion, I just put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. We move on to item 15.5, which is the investment report for January 2024. It's fairly self-explanatory. I'm not sure whether we need to go into any details around that. Do I have a mover on that motion at all? Councillor Richardson, thank you. Seconder, Councillor. 14.5, excellent pickup, thank you. And Councillor Dickinson, you're seconding it, thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion? Any comments for or against? All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously, thank you. We move on to item 14.6, quarterly budget review statement, December 2023. I will call upon, through the General Manager, the Director of Financial and Commercial Services, Mr Ted Harrington, just to quickly give us a top line on this item before we move it into it being a motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager to councillors. Councillors will note the Q2 budget review statement, the recommendation for adoption. The quarterly budget review has come in with a significant reversal in the budgeted forecast result for 23-24, now in a surplus position of approximately $5.657 million. That's largely due, as it says under the current situation paragraph, largely due to an increase in receipt of operational grants of about $7.7 million, just shy of, including a regional emergency roads repair funding of $5.5 million.
Thank you very much for that. Now, the recommendation here is that the Council adopt the quarterly budget review statement for the period ending 31 December as revised by budget estimates for the year ending 30 June 2024, and the operational plan and capital works plan be amended accordingly. Do we have a mover for that motion? Councillor Redding. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Dickinson. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I will just speak briefly. I think that's a great outcome in the quarterly review of this budget to turn it around to end up with a surplus of that amount. I just have a couple of questions on this, if I could, please. Just on the financial implications on the Office of the General Manager expenses, peoples and values, it's got an $85,000 reduction in organisational development due to diminished training requirements. I was just wondering what that was. What, the staff are not wanting to undergo training, or we don't have sufficient staff to do the training?
Which page was that? Sorry, Councillor.
101.
101. Oh yes, under people and values. To the General Manager.
Yeah, through the chair. I think that relates to resource issues that we've had. So we physically haven't had the staff to be able to train under that budget. So it's just a reduction of the budget because it's being underspent. So at this point we're taking the time to trim it. Yes, but we're pretty well resourced now. But again, all we've done is remove elements of that budget away that won't be spent by the end of the year under this particular review.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, because I just wouldn't like to see training not happen.
No, I'd like to emphasise myself that we are focusing this organisation on making sure it does the training that is required to ensure that we are all fully up to speed with our jobs.
Yeah. Well, that would probably include another one which is on 102 on property services, the 77,000 reduction as accumulation of reduced employee expenses. So that would really be the same sort of thing without having the staff, the expenses go down. On the same page, 102, regulatory compliance, a $68,000 increase in expenditure on animal control and ongoing legal matters. someone just explain what those legal matters might be?
Through the General Manager, through to the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. We do have a number of ongoing, long-standing legal matters which relate to former proceedings where the individual has not complied with the terms of orders. So we're proceeding to continue to navigate the legal system, obtain ongoing legal advice from our external counsel.
Yeah.
I'm happy to prepare a report to a future meeting of council, just giving an overview of those outstanding matters, if that would be helpful.
Oh, that would be helpful, thank you, Director, and I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Redding, thank you very much. Councillor Dickinson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a question on page 103, roads and ancillary services. The 2.185 million of additional internal income due to increased utilisation levels of internal plant that have been previously not been identified and appropriately budgeted for. Is that within the council departments, or is it outside income from roads and maritime services, or is that called?
Through
Through
the General Manager to the Director.
through the Mayor, through the General Manager to the Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Dickinson. As alliterated in there, that's internal plan. So that's not external, that's internal.
Any other comments? Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. Partly answered part of that question I was going to ask. Could the Director talk about that better utilisation in terms of better effectiveness at record keeping? Is that because they would be previously identified as being not all that good because there were lots of work that was being done that wasn't properly accounted for? Is that what you're referring to? And I do have a follow-up question as well.
Through the chair, I'll take this one, and the financial director may correct me if I am wrong, but I would say it's that our internal staff are doing far more work than they previously would have done, in particular on capital and operational projects. So those increased plant expenditure items is because they're being utilised far more, and we're getting, and these are grant-funded exercises as well. So it's a net benefit for us because we're utilising our own plant. We're not sending the money outside of the organisation, and so it reflects better on within the council's finances.
Mr Mayor, all I was going to say was reiterate what I was talking about a while ago. This is the area where council votes and adjusts money, and we adopt it. That's us approving any movements or losses that would need to be reflected in our adopted budget. That's the process. And we have another one before the end of the financial year. What I want to say is it's fantastic that the guys and the girls and all the people that work here are doing the accounting the way it should have been done way before 2021, 19, 18. And that's been my bone of contention all the time. This is all about the movement of grants and capital expenditure.
Sorry, Councillor, do you have a question? Do you have a question?
Yeah.
What's the question?
Listen to me in future, please.
That was a statement. Councillor Bowen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, General Manager, for your explanation about the about those utilisation levels. I'm just wondering whether the same types of explanations might come within the water and sewage services, where you're talking about the grants, particularly the second point, 1.917 million decrease due to grant income being recognised in prior financial years. So is that, Director, is that a direct reflection of rebalancing the books from prior years now being recognised in this current year? These will be then reflected in the end of this current year financials, or are these ongoing changes that are operating within the water services budgets? I don't know if I made myself clear there, but are these, so there's 1.917 million has come from previous financial years. Can you kind of describe how that has occurred and what impact will that have going forward for this financial year? Will that make that type of change, that quantum of change, will that then be reflected in the financial year?
Thank you, councillor. Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. For the Mayor and the General Manager, Councillor, thank you very much for your question. As noted in there, 1.917 million is a decrease in the budgeted income due to grant income being recognised in the prior year. So Boggabri, Narrabri and Wee Water and Sewer departments, there were some major capital works that were undertaken over the last 3 or 4 financial years. When we finalised the grant acquittal with the Transport for New South Wales, I believe it was, forgive me if I've got that department wrong, but when we finalised the grant acquittal and the money came in, we had previously already recognised income via invoicing, and so we're just fixing up where that belongs. We can't go back any further than the prior financial year in terms of accounting, so we only go back to the prior financial year, but that will square away our grant programs and the acquittals that do go back a number of years for those 3 townships and the water and sewer infrastructure upgrades.
Councillor Bolt, you've had 2 questions already. It's
all right. So
if it's short, I'll let you have this one.
You'll let me. Thank you.
Well, it is. Yeah. If you could.
I think it's already been discussed. These are reasonably important issues. And these have been issues that have been discussed before in regards to joint farming operations. Over the last couple of years, there's been a number of times when it's been requested that there be some an aggregated financial report on the Federation Farm system. And I'm just wondering now, do you think, the question is, do you think that we might be able to get a consolidated report on the operations of those joint farming operations sometime this financial year or at the conclusion of this financial year, so that we can actually look at the viability and the actual incomings and outgoings and the asset value that we have currently?
Okay, through the General Manager, thanks, Councillor. Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through the Mayor, the General Manager. Thank you, Councillor. Just in relation to that joint farming operations, it is potentially possible to be able to get an income and expenditure. Obviously, the Federation Farm project is its own entity, and I'm not sure of the exact contents within the contract as to whether we can disclose their operations, although it may very well be publicly available depending upon the nature of that organisation. But yes, I can endeavour to have an income and expenditure for financial periods produced hopefully by the end of the financial year, but if not, very shortly thereafter for the financial period.
The question is about having available as part of the full financial year. That's not necessarily urgently, but because I actually had that information available, then we should be able to see that consolidated report on the budget, industry, council payments and non-industry.
I'd like to clean this up. I got the call.
Yes, non-industry. Anything else like council finances?
So in terms of what our expenditure is on Federation Farm and what income we're receiving and capital. Yep, yeah, we can definitely endeavour to do that as a separate body of work.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Clements?
Just, if I could, to follow up that, we don't need to know what the share farming income is or their profit and loss. What we need to know is what do we spend, how much do we get back from them. And in a previous council, we had to commit procedural violence to get these numbers out of staff. It was costing us $1 million a year while that organisation ran round saying how profitable it was. Okay, we need to get a good look at that because it costs us a lot of money. and we need to get a proper handle on it instead of flying under this goodwill umbrella. Oh, you know, happy, there's all this stuff happening out there. It cost us around $1 million 10 years ago, so let's get a proper number on it.
Thank you very much, councillor.
Through the chair, I'll just pass a comment on that. There certainly isn't that type of approach with the organisation we have before you at the moment. But what I would say is, I don't know what those numbers are, and I think it'd be a valuable exercise to find out what those numbers are. But I would caution sort of judging that system too quickly, because the cost of upgrading our sewage treatment plant to ensure that it meets the disposal guidelines that would be required under the EPA regulations may be way more than
Absolutely, but
than
if I could
the
just
cost
say,
it presently is.
when
Yeah.
you don't know
But it's
your
worth a
costs,
look.
when you don't know your costs, you don't keep control of them, okay? And that thing is blown out before. The same as crossing theatre. You've got to, as you know, GM, you've got to keep a tight eye on your costs, or costs just grow.
Point made. Thank you very much. There being no further questions, councillor.
Mr Mayor, and it's not a question, it's just a statement. We've got the media here, and we're talking about another business entity that we're doing business with. Commercial in confidence, are we getting into strife here somewhere? I just hope that the media accepts the fact that we asked a query of what's going on with Federation Farm, if we could be treated like that. That's just, I'm not...
It's on the public broadcast anyway, and
eventually be public, of course.
it's, you know, it's on YouTube, but you make an excellent point, Councillor Mond. In all of these discussions, we need to be very careful about these types of things. But thank you. We've got a motion before the council, moved by Councillor Redding. We've got it seconded by Councillor Dickinson. There being no further comments for or against, the mover, would you like to say anything else to your motion, or are you happy for it to go to the floor? So I put it to the vote. All those in favour, all those against, that's carried unanimously. Thank you, council. We move to item 14.7, which is the resolutions register from November to December 2023.
I'll move that.
Councillor Clements, you're moving that. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Redding, thank you very much. Is there any debate or any call for discussion? Would you like to make a comment, Councillor?
It's often that people have questions on this, as they should. I have one, which is we put a grant application a while ago for a street shop front to do with economic development. That was related to the SAP. Given the SAP is on hold, I think we could safely just drag that out and stop worrying about that. But I appreciate the efforts of staff, and the register looks good. We've got a lot of things there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clements. Do I have any other comments, questions, concerns? That being the case, I'll put it to the council. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We now move on to item 14.8. Councillor Richardson is leaving the room at 2:08. Thank you, Councillor.
Mr Mayor, I'm declaring, after looking at the items in depth, I'm declaring on 14.8, I've got a construction certificate on which I'm part of. It's been lodged with council at the moment through our consultants. I'm a part owner of that. It's in Brenton, Laidlaw Street, Boggabroy, and the other part is following on from the development that's mentioned in the director's report in Merton Street, the Boggabroy CBD. I'm declaring that because I'm an adjoining owner, family members of property around.
Okay.
There's the,
That's your call. I'll just get you switch your microphone off. Sorry, Councillor Lamont. Sorry. Thank you very much, Councillor. So Councillor Lamont is about to leave the room.
Thank you very much.
That's at 2:09. Councillor Lamont has left the chamber. Did you want to speak? Sorry, did you want to speak to this? So, councillors, if there are any questions of the GM or the director for this one, please feel free before we turn it into a motion. Councillor Clements.
No motion in front of us, but anyway, I'll ask the question. How many DAs are delayed? Can we get not now, but for a future, can we get an idea of how many are delayed and getting extended? Because I hear that there are some that are delayed and extended. It would be good for us to get a look at that. Not today, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, through the General Manager. Just seek some clarification around that, Councillor Clements. When you say delay, is that just in terms of the, is that in relation to requests for information or that may be being presented to those applicants? I'm just trying to seek some clarity around what you're actually seeking so we can make sure that we're providing what you need.
It's exactly that, and it's often a source of frustration to people that there is a statutory time to process a DA, development application, but sometimes these things become very extended. I think it would be interesting for us to see how many are becoming extended and by what length of time, because it shows that either we're not providing enough information to the applicant, or the applicant's not doing their job properly, or something. But DAs should run to a tight time frame, and it would be good to see how many done, please. Not now, but for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Clements. General Manager to the Director.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor, through the General Manager. And just to remind councillors that you also have access to the New South Wales Planning portal to look at any applications and their status. So if you ever get curious or can't sleep at night, there's the ability to jump onto that completely dysfunctional portal and try and have a look at where we're up to. Thank you.
Councillor Dickinson, did you have a question?
Yes, I've just got a question in relation to the solar farms. I was just wondering, how many solar farms are there out there, are there DAs in for the Narrabri Shire? And if you've got any idea, are they progressing, or are they, a lot of them at a standstill or now defunct?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, through the General Manager. I believe there would be between 5 and 10 in total. I'm happy to provide some separate information to councillors around the status of same. Some are not proceeding, some are well advanced in the process, but I will circulate some separate information on those.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions, concern before we move this on?
Just quickly, Mayor, can I get through you a comment from the Director in relation to the actual value that's put on projects? Is there any further examination of the veracity of those sorts of numbers, or you just publish them as they are, or do you ask for clarification of values from time to time?
Through the General Manager to the Director.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor, through the General Manager again. There is a series of guidelines that are put forward by the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure around CIV, which is Capital Infrastructure Value. Staff are guided by the CIV guidelines. They will question from time to time values of development. That's all as part of the standard administrative processes that are sitting behind the framework. The figures that are reported in the business paper are essentially pulled out of the management system, our document management system.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dickinson.
Yes, just one more question in relation to the solar farm. I was just wondering, when some of these solar panels get damaged, and it's probably in relation to some of the solar panels that are on homes at the moment, can the Director tell us what happens to, where do they go? Do we have an obligation to accept those damaged panels at our waste facility, or are they being taken somewhere else?
To the General Manager.
Through the Chair, I think that's quite a complex question because there will be a number of metals that wouldn't be able to be just disposed of at a tip. So I would say that would be a controlled product.
E-waste.
I'm not even sure if it would be controlled by the e-waste legislation. Sadly, Eloise isn't here and she would have more of an idea of the answer to that, but I will ask Eloise when she gets back and we'll circulate. Yeah, Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager, Councillor Clements is absolutely correct. There's generally provisions within consents around end of life of solar farms, solar panels for the larger farms. I'm happy to consult with our waste department when I'm pulling together a briefing note on the solar farms to explore the how we're dealing with those at the waste facilities at the moment. It's certainly an emerging issue that's been identified as part of, I think, the net zero policy as well, the New South Wales policy, and something that's definitely emerging within the sector. So it's pertinent that we're on the front foot with that.
Councillor Redding.
Yeah, just further on the solar panels, they're very popular today. Previously, with all the solar farms around, there was an issue of having access to the grid, not enough capacity. Is that still the case, or there's no improvement on that at all?
Councillor, thank you very much. General Manager to the Director.
Yeah, from what staff understand, thank you, Mr Mayor, through the General Manager, the constraints within the network remain an ongoing challenge for regions like Narrabri. There's been no significant adjustment or improvement to my knowledge. There remains ongoing interest in BESS as a solution, the battery energy storage systems. So it might be an area where council may wish to advocate further in terms of the those network investments.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bold.
One more question on solars, if I can.
Yep.
Just to follow up, really. So when such, for example, this one gets built, and is there a way? Does council actually then do an inspection or some analysis of the actual capacity that has been constructed? Because I can say with some level of authority that number of dollars is 5 times the value of what that solar farm is.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bohm. Through the General Manager to the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager, I'd have to take that on notice, I'm sorry, Councillor, to review what's actually been submitted in relation to that particular proposal. It may well be an item that's state significant as well, so, or a regional planning panel matter, so I'll take that on notice.
Thank you very much, Director. Any other comments, concerns, questions? We might move it into it. Do I have a mover of this for this motion, please? Councillor Clements, Councillor Redding, thank you. Councillor Clements, would you like to speak to your motion? Excellent. Any other comments, concerns, questions? Any comments about the motion? I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks for your patience. We might just call the other two councillors back in. Councillors enter, or Councillor Richardson's in the chamber at 2:18. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Lamont is also back in the room. We now move, councillors, thank you for your patience. We now move on to item 14.9, which is the infrastructure delivery status report for January 2024. Evan, speak to that.
Through the chair, I'll speak to this. I know Evan will be here to assist me with any questions if we have questions, but we'll take the report as read. It's just a description of the last month and a half's worth of work. Yeah, open for questions.
Any questions from the floor? There being no questions, sorry, Councillor Richardson. Okay, Councillor Richardson, if you'd like to move this. Do I have a seconder on that, the motion? Councillor Clements? Or, would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Richardson?
Yeah, just a question in regards to the local traffic committee meeting minutes in December. Under the advocacy for Boggabri school crossings, it just says that the school's also requested this from Transport New South Wales. Just wondering if there's any further commentary. Where do we go from now? Has there been a resolution?
Through the chair, I do know that Eloise has been working on that issue. I'll take that question on notice and we'll get an answer to you as soon as we can.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you.
Very much. Any other comments about this this particular report? Councillor Lamont.
Mr Mayor, I had a constituent ring me in relation to other constituents. The Access residents, by the way. Residents they're residents. A resident rang me, and there are people that aren't residents, but they're on the roll. In relation to the circular road around, you and I should have a contest one day about governance law. The circular road around Yarry Lake, it's incomplete in front of the administration that's there, and I understand in the past that may have been tarred by council, I think, whether Councillor Redding may remember that. Is that not, through you and the General Manager to the Acting Director here, Evan, is that not part of our plans to upgrade the front of Yarry Lake Administration Centre in doing the wide road?
Through the General Manager to the Acting Director, do you want to take that on notice or?
Yes, sorry, Councillor.
Might have to take that on
We'll take that
notice.
one on notice and find an answer for you.
Yeah, because I've never, and I know there's people in the room probably have the answer to it but aren't in a position to talk about it, is that it does make a lot of sense. If that was tarred previously and while all the equipment's there, if we can source the funds, but my concern was, is it Crown land? If it was Crown land, well, that's another exercise in futility forever and a day. But if it was tarred once, maybe it's a matter of refurbishment or something like that. But if that can be got back to me, please, Mr. General Manager.
Thank you very much, Councillor
I'll tell
Lamont.
my resident.
Definitely a question on notice. Thank you. Any other comments? So that's right. So we have the motion there. I'll just put it to the floor. There being no further questions or comments. All those in favour? All those against? Councillors, we're voting on this. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much for that. We're going to move on to the 14.10, which is the Narrabri West Freight Activation Precinct Project. I'll call upon the General Manager just to just briefly comment on this.
Through the chair, thank you. We'll take the item as read again. It's the end of, or well, not so much the end, let's call it the middle of a very drawn-out process in terms of the Narrabri West Precinct Freight Activation Project, as it was called. We had the grant funds called in by State when they decided that it no longer had a business case to deliver the project. So this report is basically asking if our elected members are comfortable with us sharing all of the information and all of the hard work that our staff and our consultants had done getting to the point where we had got to back with State, and then we lodge advocacy with State to actually get this project built. So that's a call for both advocacy and for the sharing of all of our hard work that we've done to this point.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Manager. Do we have any comments or?
Can I move that we go into committee as a whole to discuss this project?
Do I have a seconder for moving to committee of the whole? Councillor Lamont. Would you like to
The whole
speak
reason,
to why you want us to move into the committee of the whole?
Yes, if I can just give some explanation as to why I'd like to move into committee of the whole. This project that goes back 14 years, there's quite a lot of false starts, false moves and so on, and I would like to be able to see whether we can come to a resolution about the way forward here in advance of recommending that we actually just receive and note the report. I believe that there's more to be done than just receiving and noting. I think there needs to be some very clear strategic direction put into place in addition to that recommendation.
Through the chair, the resolution 2 calls for advocacy to the relevant minister. It doesn't just, it isn't a resolution for noting, it's a resolution for noting the report, but then providing project-related documentation and advocacy to the relevant minister to build the project.
So the item we have before us now is, do we go into committee of the whole, or are we just prepared to use normal meeting procedure? You've advocated for us to move into the committee of the whole. We've got a seconder here. All those in favour of moving into committee of the whole? All those against? I've got a casting vote on that one, so it's. So, okay, we'll make it very clear. So the vote at the moment, we've got a mover that we move into committee of the whole. We've got a seconder that we move into the committee of the whole. We've had a certain amount of debate, I guess. And we're just having a vote on whether we move into committee of the whole. All those in favour of moving into committee of the whole? All those against? So we've got 3 votes. Sorry, we've got 4 votes for moving into committee of the whole. We've got 4 votes against moving into the committee of the whole. I've got a casting vote. I'm going to cast it against moving into the committee of the whole. I think we can have a perfectly rational discussion without it moving into committee of the whole. Do we have a... So before we turn this into a motion, for the actual discussion, I will actually just see if there's any councillors that wish to actually ask any comments directly of the team here. That's right.
Anyway,
Councillor Clements.
I'm not sure what this procedure that we're doing, but anyway, look, I wholly endorse, handing the information over. I mean, can't see why we didn't, but appreciate the fact that we're being asked as the elected body. But also, do we have a focus on loading and unloading facilities? Because hopefully we're going to start to attract some big players into this town, and big industry with big bits of kit are going to need really good loading and unloading facilities. I'm just wondering whether we've got that anywhere in our thinking, please.
I'll take that on notice, I think, for that.
Well, again, from my perspective, I hear the question, have we got to focus on the future of how we get grain from one place to another and how we store it and distribute it? But again, I'm struggling to understand the relevance of that question, which is a broader economic development question, to this pure wrap-up of a project that we couldn't get delivered because we lost the grant funding.
Well, we can play, but I didn't reference grain. Grain is an issue. It's actually not relevant to this discussion, but this is, particularly a place where you may load and unload big, heavy bits of kit. Not talking about grain. Grain's its own little space. We lost some money, blah blah blah, and we've got a special activation precinct. I won't even talk about. This is for the activation precinct. Do we have a focus here on loading and unloading facilities? Is there a capacity here? Because the other thing is on the never never.
Can anybody help with this? I don't.
Yes, Councillor Bond. We don't have a motion before us, that's the point. So we don't have a motion. So we just, yep.
I move that we move into the business of
Yep.
discuss the proposal, the recommendation. That's correct. You then open it up for general discussion. Can you describe whether we're
It's just simply asking questions of...
or are we operating under normal meeting procedure?
So normal-
Because it can only be one or the other.
Normal meeting procedure is, and every other council seems to do it this way, is that before a recommendation becomes a motion, it is allowed for a director or the GM to talk through the issue and for questions of clarification to be asked of that director. That's a fairly normal procedure. And at any stage, someone can quickly end that proceeding and say, I'd like to move this as a motion, and tweak and change the motion, and it becomes, and then we move into formal meeting debate. That is just the standard way of doing it. Now, I know that hasn't always been the case here in Narrabri Council, but that's the way that every other council does it.
So we're now changing
No, it's not. It's just, you can ask clarifications around this report. It's not about debating it backwards and forwards, it's just asking for clarity.
Yeah, can I have a point of order, please? You know, I've had my microphone on. Councillors are jumping in and just standing up, speaking.
Yep.
Can we just follow the rules of this meeting, the rules of meeting practice, please?
Councillor Reading.
Thank you. This report is about a number of things. The main one and the main purpose of this bypass is to get the trucks away from the West schools, to divert them around past the depot and across the line into Graincorp or up to Lex Gordon's freight, or any freight that needs to go up there. My question on this is, during this whole process of this project, there was a lot of difficulty in getting approval from, first of all, it was with John Holland, and then they lost the contract. It went to Lynx on the country lines. Have we progressed any further in getting approval for them to do that crossing? Because that's what the main hold-up was, is the rail crossing.
Through until about June last year, we felt that progress was being made, and we had a commitment that that project was, the rail element of that project was about to start. Subsequent to the review of funding that state government undertook, it was decided that there was no longer a business case for that project. So whilst we had spent close to 3 years endeavouring to get approvals and further approvals to the rail elements of that project, when we got close to the point where it was scheduled to start, the review of funding was encountered, and the business case no longer appeared to stack up, and funding was removed.
Councillor Bowen. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. No, there's no need to be snippy. Just ask a question. Hang on.
I will ask a question. Do I stand for this? I will. I'll stand for this. This seems to me to be a charade of unfulfilled opportunities, and it seems to me that the major cause of the loss of this project.
Councillor Bowen, would you just get to the point?
And I'm going to ask a question, Mayor. I'm going to ask to what degree can the business case be re-established? A new business case be re-established in the light of the information that we've had from Ernst Young, those reports, in the light of what the SAP has done in the last 6 to 12 months. Is there an opportunity for a new business case to actually drive this from an economic point of view? Because no matter what we do, the state government will continue to come back and say it is below the threshold of economic viability activity. So I'm asking the question, how do we then strategically open up this as an opportunity for a new business case for the precinct that it now has become, as alluded to by Councillor Clements?
Thank you, Councillor.
Through the Chair, I'll endeavour to answer the question as much as I know about the issue. Eloise will probably know more than me, and I apologise for Eloise not being able to make the meeting today through illness. The business case, from my perspective, like many business cases in rural Australia, is marginal at best. It was always marginal at best. The biggest problem from our perspective was twofold. The first side of the problem from a business case perspective was the fact that it took so long to progress with the rail works, which meant time was our enemy, costs increased. So costs increased, but the benefits did not necessarily increase. So it makes the business case more and more marginal, even if you can claim it to be there in the first place. The second element was our community in one part of that project was adamantly opposed to the freight new junction being built. And therefore, there was significant pushback from the community in terms of progressing the project in its original form. When that junction was identified as needing to be removed because of the community pushback, the business case was turned from being incredibly marginal at best to absolutely not there. And I think even the suggestion that we could create a business case for this project that would stack up from a financial or even a community and financial perspective would be very difficult indeed. It's not to say that it doesn't make sense, because ultimately what price do you place on safety for a school in close proximity to a freight terminal? That is a really big issue for this community. It needs to be fixed, and I think that is the direction that the advocacy needs to take, rather than trying to focus on dollars and cents when the project makes sense, different spelling, but the dollars don't necessarily reinforce a business case perspective.
Thank you very much. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Clements, Councillor Redding. So moved by Councillor Clements, seconded by Councillor Redding. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Clements? Any other comments or concerns, questions, etc.? I'll put it to the floor. Oh, Councillor Lamont.
My only thing was procedural, Mr Mayor. You've still got to move in a committee of the whole matter sitting there underneath, where you were alluding to using your casting vote. One way or the other, that needs to be recorded as a accurate presentation of what transpired at the meeting.
So it's just, we've got to swap those motions around. Thank you. All right, I put this motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We now move on to item 14.11, Bulga CBD, Vickery Park to Anzac Park Master Plan. Just, I might get the acting director through the general manager just to briefly speak about that approach.
Thank you, Mayor, to the General Manager. Obviously, we've gone through this process. We've got the 2 plans. Option A was what's been selected. So we're looking for the adoption of that to start moving forward with the project.
Yep. Thank you very much. Do I have a mover on this? Oh, do you got a question?
I can move it.
Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Dickinson. Thank you very much for that. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Just briefly, I think we need to go with what the community voted on. There was extensive consultation, so thank you to council staff for making that happen. And 85% in support of the library and hall option. We've got our answer now. Happy, support it. I'd love to, in support of the adoption of it, and would like to see it go out for design, tender, and the next stage happen.
Right. Any other comments, questions, speakers for or against? Councillor Redding.
Just a comment, actually. I think it's a fabulous outcome for the Bulga community. And yeah, I am excited that they've put in the library there. The possibilities of having a bit of an outdoor library attached to that are endless. So, advocate for libraries, always. But it is a fabulous outcome for the Bulga community. And thank you to all the staff who took on board Councillor Richardson's comments towards the end of last year and went through with it. Great outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillor. Any other comments, questions? I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. We now move on to item 14.12, which is Operational and Service Plan Quarterly Report, 1st of October 23 to 31st of December 23. We don't really need that. Spoken yet? Mr General Manager.
Through the chair, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's the council's quarterly operational plan report update to quarter two. Is it quarter two? Yeah, quarter two. Confusing myself. It looks pretty optimistic, and we've been very focused with our staff to ensure that the records are as close to as they can be. So we've put the staff under a bit of pressure to make sure that they're reporting as accurately as they can at quarter two, rather than leaving things to quarter three and the world sort of turns upside down. So as a management team, we did a thorough review of these quarter two results, and we are fairly optimistic that this is heading the way it probably will end up. So a very positive outcome.
Do I have a mover of that motion? Councillor Redding, Councillor Dickinson. Thank you. Councillor Redding, would you like to speak to your motion?
I would just briefly speak to it. I concur with the General Manager's comments 100%. Just looking through this report, as you know, the first thing most people focus on is the negative. And when I just see a 4% out of the 100 of issues encountered, I think that's a wonderful outcome. And yep, I agree, we are heading towards the end of a very successful year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Redding. Any other questions, any other comments for or against this? That being the case, I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. We now move on to item 14.13, which is the delivery program. Delivery program 6-monthly progress report, December 2023. I just call on the manager of governance and risk through the GM to speak to this motion, to this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the GM, this particular report really measures the effect that what we're doing has had. So where the quarterly report reflects what we're doing and how we're achieving what we've said we're going to do, what this report does is it really sets out the effect of all the things we're doing on the community. So it's a lot of statistics around demographics and social impacts and things like that. Yeah, so it is what it is.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Clements, do you have a...
I'd like to move it.
Going to move that? Do I have a seconder on that motion, please? Councillor Browning? Councillor Clements, would you like to speak to your motion?
Look, I would. I think for those listening, it'd be good for the public to have a look through these things. It just shows how extensive and at times complex the role of local government is in a community, and I think it's a good report. One thing I would raise just for the meeting is that sometimes things change, things need to be flexible, not to the point where you damage your plans and you wildcat in things which distress the General Manager in terms of budgets. But I will raise the fact that in what is a very comprehensive report and something that's well founded in terms of community consultation originally, the Wee Waa Panthers senior team is going again, and we need a bit of work on Cook Oval, which isn't in the planning, but certainly the General Manager, and I know Evan here representing the Director are aware and are on top of, so I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clements. Do I have any other comments or for or against this motion? Being the case, I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? Oh, the General Manager would like to just say something, by the way, just before we...
I just want to beg just a little interlude here. The little debate as to who would introduce the report. I've got an incredibly talented individual to my right who doesn't really get the opportunity to say much in the council meeting, and that was the nature of the debate. It was that Jason, I believe, deserves an opportunity as a senior manager within this organisation to speak on occasion, because he's an incredibly talented individual and probably would describe it better than anybody else on this table with the strategic and operational reports that we do. So that was the nature of the content, and I just wanted to reinforce that he's really good at his job and he's great for this organisation, and I just want him to be heard occasionally.
Thank you very much, Mr General Manager. So I'm going to put it to Councillor Clements.
Well, I'm allowed to close, so I would endorse fully the fact that there's a great team there, and I'll include Alice in that as well. These two make a good team, and they're thoughtful and intelligent people, and pretty hard working. So I think we should recognise these things at times.
You, Councillor.
He's embarrassed, but that's proof that he's a good person.
I shouldn't have done it, but I did.
So we'll start the vote again, actually, if that's possible. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 14.14. That's a very important one. I might call on the Director through the General Manager just to give us the top line on this item, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager, this is the culmination of almost 12 months' work by the team in consultation with both the elected body and our very hard-working Crime Prevention Advisory Committee. There's a suite of documents that are presented to Council for consideration. As Council would be aware that this is a pretty hot topic within the community. The suite of documents will provide a roadmap for Council staff and the Crime Prevention Committee to direct their activities and efforts. We would like to seek Council endorsement to place that plan on public exhibition for broader community comment for a period of 28 days, wherein we will bring another report back to Council. The Crime Prevention Advisory Committee have also endorsed the suite of documents for the purpose of presenting to this Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director, do I have any questions before we throw it to a vote and a motion? Do I have any questions at all, clarifications, etc.? Do I have a mover on this motion? Councillor Redding, Councillor Richardson. Or was it the other way around? Councillor Redding, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
I will briefly speak on this. It's great to have this draft plan completed, ready for endorsement and to go out for public exhibition. The crew at UNE Centre for Rural Criminology did a fabulous job. They did a lot of consultation with a lot of people, a very thorough report, and the Crime Prevention Committee, Councillor Richardson and myself, were very happy with the end result of this. So I think it's excellent, and everybody needs a pat on the back to get this done. It gives us a document to move forward on.
Excellent work. Thank you very much, Councillor Redding. Councillor Clements.
I would like to speak to the motion. Again, very, very complex issues and very complex documents. I would like to say, for the future, that I would like to see a broader look at diversion programs, of which we are very lacking. As an individual, I'm very much of a view that when people cross a criminal line, then you need to have a very strong response. But well before that, we need to do more The Young Offenders Act is something which I think this council should have a look at some time, and not the clickbait view of the Young Offenders Act, which is out there, but actually just a steady, considered input into the Young Offenders Act. One of the characteristics of the Young Offenders Act, and we hear continually police annoyed, upset that they take a matter to court and a magistrate will not find in their favour. But well back from that is the incapacity of police, and this is something that should be reported. It's not a criticism of police. But when I talk to senior police, their lack of capacity to refer to a service leads them to take a matter to court. We lack services that would avoid court and properly avoid court. And for many, not for those who are properly criminal, they need to go to court. But we have this grey area of taking people to court who can't be referred to a service because the service doesn't exist, and magistrates saying, I don't want to put that person in incarceration, they will come out worse. And we should, in the future, when we're looking at crime prevention plans, we should get involved in that. We should get involved in the Young Offenders Act, and particularly with a view to the fact that we are lacking in services, we need to start to talk about the lack of services, because there is no point taking people down a criminal pathway when we're not talking about the fact that we can't refer to services because the services don't exist. Thank you.
Just through the General Manager to the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager, yes, the issue of dolly incapacs is particularly topical, diversion and youth offenders. Can I suggest that Council might consider, given that it is an issue that's not limited to just our community, it's a real problem throughout Australia, that it might be considered for a specific motion to the upcoming national local government assembly. I believe that we have got a briefing, a session within the next briefing to discuss potential motions, so perhaps something that staff can work up prior to that next briefing session.
Good idea. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Bowen.
Yeah, I was going to reflect on that, and Directors has already mentioned it, Mayor, is there an opportunity for us, and in particular yourself, to work with our immediately and neighbouring councils to work directly to that. And now the Director's talked about making this a motion. I think that's clearly the way forward, to me anyway. But we do, you know, there's Moree and Guida and Warrumbungle,
100%.
Gunnedah, Walgett and Moree Plains Shire. Those, we share a lot of the same communities, we share a lot of the same issues. There's a whole lot of homogeneity in the way our communities are structured, so I think it's probably something to consider within the context of what the Director's suggesting.
Interesting. Thank you very much for that. Any other comments for or against? Councillor Richardson?
Yeah, definitely for this motion. As part of the delegate for the Crime Prevention Committee, I just want to make sure that Dr Mulrooney and his team at the UNE for Rural Criminology, thank them, and also thank our Crime Prevention Committee members. So they've even actually had extraordinary committee meetings to get this adopted. They've sat down with UNE to explain, go through in detail the plan. So I think it's just good to highlight the council staff, people who have done this plan. It is one of the best I've actually seen in my time in council, and thank our volunteers. Without them, this wouldn't have been a success.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other comments for or against? That being the case, I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. We now move on to item 15.1, which is the 2022-26 Youth Strategy for Adoption. And to further give us some background on this, I just call upon the Director through the GM to talk through this.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager again. The youth strategy, as council is aware, has been on the agenda for quite some time. We've had the benefit of some briefing sessions on the youth strategy. It's gone through a process of engagement with youth that was facilitated by the community engagement team, and very good work that was done in that space. So the strategy has been put out on public exhibition. We received one response, and the report and the strategy is tabled for council's endorsement.
Thank you very much, Director. Do you have any questions of the Director at all, or do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Clements, Councillor Richardson. Councillor Clements, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, again, appreciate the effort into these reports, and they are important matters which, regardless of whether council wants to be involved or not, we have to be involved in these things. It falls to us. And again, I would like next year, when we review this, that we broaden out and have a look at perhaps not such the easy things, but the hard things. And the lack of services in this shire is a major issue. And we have some very functional youth, and they actually appear in these sort of reports and youth councils. I think that we need to perhaps look at the dysfunctional youth and have a harder look at that. But that's for another year. I appreciate the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors for or against this motion? I'll put it to council. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Move on to item 16.1, which is regulatory compliance report, December 23 and January 24. Did you want to speak? Just through the General Manager to the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager. The report's as read, as can be seen in the report. The team continue to deal with a range of very complex matters, and we're happy to keep on presenting this report to council so you get a feel for the community issues and the challenges that are ongoing and arising.
Can I ask a question of the Director through the GM? The issues relating to the state, the change in legislation around animals and companion animals, does that continue to be a problem for our shire?
Yeah, it's an ongoing issue, thanks Mr Mayor, that there seems to be no immediate respite.
Thank you. Any other questions of the Director at all? Do I have a mover for the... Oh, Councillor Clements?
I'm happy to move, and I do have a question.
Okay. Councillor Clements?
Do we have a second?
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Richardson? Councillor Clements?
Just on page 206, the issue of people living in temporary housing on both public and private land, I'd just like to have a bit more information on that, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager, I think it goes to the issue of homelessness generally and the cost of living increases. It seems to be quite a wicked problem. We don't have any hard data around homelessness for this shire, and probably don't have a full oversight of the issue. There is, it seems to be a number of, when I drive through other surrounding shires, a lot of people that are camping. So be interested to see how that's trending across other areas as well. We don't have any immediate information, unfortunately.
Thank you very much, Director. Any other questions, concerns for or against this motion? That being the case, I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried unanimously. We move on to item 16.2, which is the Boggabri Floodplain Risk Management Study and Plan, and that's on page 211. I'll move a break. We'll adjourn. We will adjourn after this item. I'll try and keep this item to less than an hour for the councillors, okay? I'll just through the General Manager to the Director, would you like to just briefly speak to this item?
Yeah, through the General Manager. Again, councillors have had the benefit of a number of workshops on the Boggabri flood study. It's been very much underpinned by extensive community engagement, probably the most comprehensive that I've seen for any flood study that I've been involved in over my career. The report is tabled and presented as read for council's endorsement, and might I add, 6 months ahead of schedule.
Excellent, thank you very much. Any questions from the Director at all? Who would like to move this motion? Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Redding, was it? Excellent, thank you very much. Councillor Richardson, would you like to speak to this motion?
Just briefly, it's been going on for quite some time. WRM Water Council and the community work very collaborative in it. It's good to see every player just working together for a common goal and help our community out.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other councillors for or against this motion? No. That being the case, I'll put to the floor all those in favour, all those against. That's carried. Now, I'm going to just extend the meeting slightly. We've got only one more item two more items after this, so we can allow before we move into confidential. It's just that we've got a member of the media who's a very, very busy lady, and she would like to ride off into the sunset, if that's okay. So item 17.1, which is the temporary suspension of alcohol-free zone, and this is for the Narrabri event 2024. I'll just hand that over to the Director through the General Manager to speak to that.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager, a standard report as we present every year for Narrabri, requesting a temporary suspension of zones. We have been in consultation with the New South Wales Police, who have raised no concerns.
Thank you very much, Director. Any questions of the Director? Councillor Clements? Okay, Councillor Clements, if you'd like to move that, that's moved by you and seconded by Councillor Bold. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Clements?
Very briefly. Looks like a great event. These temporary suspensions serve a purpose in terms of the night and how it runs. Do like to hear back from staff on how that goes, and although this may not be the case here, pretty keen to see food served, so people aren't just standing around drinking on the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments for or against? That being the case, I'll move it. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. We move on to item 17.2, which is DA 2024/0018, demolition and construction of a multi-dwelling housing development on lot DP 393625, 19 Malay Street, Narrabri. I'll just hand this to the Director just to give us some background on this through the General Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the General Manager, councillors have before them a very comprehensive planning assessment report that's been prepared in accordance with our legislative obligations. It is being put forward to council for final determination, as effectively 6 submissions were lodged in relation to the application. Hence, we're sending it to council for transparency purposes. A range of issues were identified during the exhibition phase that relate to privacy and access. Essentially, those matters were referred back to the proponent, who has provided a response to all of the issues raised. The matters put forward to council for endorsement by way of approval, subject to a range of conditions. Council will also note our ongoing discussions and conversations around the need for infill development in West Narrabri and opportunities for that West Lake precinct, as we've most recently tagged it, to resolve some of our ongoing housing challenges. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Director. Do we have some questions for the Director on this matter? That being the case, do I have a mover for this motion, please? Councillor Redding. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bohm. Thank you. Councillor Redding, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, just briefly, it's a great outcome. I did have some residents come to me when they first got notice of this development, but just looking at the final plans and everything, I can well see that their concerns have been alleviated, like with the high fence, the distance of the dwellings from the back fence, and then you've got a veranda on that, so they're more than happy with this development and wish to see it go ahead.
Thank you very much, Councillor Redding. Councillor Bohm.
Yeah, the two things that I really like about that, and the Director's already mentioned this about the need for infill. But the thing is that there's a whole lot of housing stock in this town that really needs very significant opportunities for redevelopment. And I'm really hoping that these sorts of developments are actually a portent of what's to come, that we get to actually get people or landowners to really improve the valuation and the quality of the stock, housing stock in the town. I think it's a great move, and I certainly appreciate the fact there's been a lot of work going into this, and we could only hope that this really becomes a bit of a model for how we can move forward.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bohm. Do I have any other comments for or against this motion? That being the case, I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. I'd just like to thank you very much. That concludes the normal part of the open council meeting. I would now like to move that we move into confidential closed council.
Well, I'd like to move that we suspend standing orders for the purposes of getting a cup of tea.
Yes, but before we do that, can we suspend? Can we move into closed meeting?
I'm happy that we move. I'll move that we move into a closed meeting.
Seconder was Councillor Richardson. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you very much, Ali. I'll just suspend standing. And for that purpose, the General Manager needs to just report on the outcomes of the closed council meeting. Mr. General Manager.
Once I can see the resolutions, I can read them out.
No worries.
There's an awful lot of talking. Okay, just to confirm, item 18.1, the Narrabri Shire Youth Council application was received, and the motion that was endorsed was that council endorses the enclosed application for candidate 1 for the Narrabri Shire Youth Council's second term of 2023 to 2025.
That was carried unanimously.
Motion number 2, 18.2, Seniors Festival 2024, the Senior of the Year nomination. 3 resolutions that were passed that are all... Don't read them out. Oh, okay. They're all confidential, I'm afraid. So that was discussed. Item 18.2. Sorry, 18.3. Business paper and unconfirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk and Improvement Committee. The Council note the business papers and unconfirmed minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on the 18th of December 2023. And 18.4. 2 motions which were endorsed unanimously. The Council accept the tender from Derricon Contractors Pty Limited in the GST exclusive amount of $4,303,181.33 for contract number 2023-24/42 Yarry Lake to Pilliga Freight Route Upgrade Stage 1, and clause and resolution 2 that Council maintain the confidentiality of the documents and considerations in respect of that contract, Yarry Lake to Pilliga Freight Route Upgrade Stage 1.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Manager. That draws to an end our council meeting.
Sorry, just a point of clarity with 18.1. When does that actually become open and non-confidential? Does it have to go to the youth council?
We'll clarify that privately. Thank you very much, Councillor. That being the last item for this council. Thank you very much for your patience, councillors. Today we've been 1 minute past 4. I declare the council meeting closed. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you at the next briefing. Thank you very much. Thank you. The first briefing should be
2 weeks before the next meeting.
12th of March, Councillor.
12th of March. Yes. Thank you.